rainbows and the fish and the guitar lies our neighborhood astrologer. Please give a warm welcome to Rick Levine.
Thank you all. Welcome to SoulFood Books. This is the first Wednesday night of September 2012, and I hate to pull a Clint Eastwood, but I'd like to address my compatriot, Jeff Jower, who is unable to be here this evening, but I would like Jeff to say a few opening words. Oh, what's that? You have nothing to say, Jeff? Well, I guess I'm on my own. As you may know, Jeff and his family are vacationing on some Mediterranean island this week, which shall remain nameless for security purposes. And so tonight you are actually stuck with me solo. Next month, for those of you who are regulars, I will already be in Bali. Jeff will be a day away from leaving for Bali. So next month I get even with Jeff and he'll be here by himself. In November, let's see, that's October. And I think in November, no one will be here. I think Clint is standing in for both of us. In December, regular schedule resumes. So now that we've gotten the housekeeping out of the way, we have an incredible month in front of us. In fact, we have incredible times all around us. And as I've said here before, and I'm sure I will say again, it really doesn't take being an astrologer to see how intense and crazy these times are. In fact, you really don't even have to be all that smart to look around and to get that there's huge changes everywhere. This month, September 2012, is the second exact square between two slow-moving outer planets, Uranus, the planet of revolution, shock, surprise, upheaval, and Pluto, the planet of transformation, metamorphosis, evolution, and intensity. These two planets will form a 90-degree angle, a square, 7 times exactly between the spring of 2012, actually already passed for those of you who are paying attention, and the spring of 2015. This is a 3-year period, maybe even a 5 or 6 year period. I'll say more about this in a moment. This will kind of be the focus of our discussion tonight. But I'd like to just aim your attention here to a chart where we have all the planets located around the edge of the chart, but the ones that I want you to look at are Uranus in Aries. This big fat red line is a 90-degree angle, a square, between Uranus and Pluto. Pluto at 7 degrees of Capricorn, Uranus at 7 degrees of Aries. This is a 90-degree angle. In astrology, when two planets are 90 degrees apart, this is the angle of maximum stress. Maximum creative dynamics needed to resolve the stress. It takes Uranus 84 years to go around the sun or through the zodiac once. It takes Pluto 240 some odd years. We've never experienced a full Pluto cycle, but about 245 years to go around once. These two slow-moving planets, the planet of revolution, Uranus, and the planet of evolution, Pluto, when they make these hard angles, these 90-degree angles, or their conjunctions, an alignment where the two are in the same place, these form the architecture of social transformation and social revolution. Now, for those of you who have been coming to SoulFood Books on a regular basis on these first Wednesday night months, you've heard Jeff isn't saying much tonight. I'm not sure why. You've heard Jeff and me talk about the Uranus-Pluto cycle when Uranus and Pluto were last aligned. They were conjunct. They were lined up in the same place in the sky, and this was in 1965 and 1966. Astrologers understand that what we refer to as the 60s was actually an artifact of the planet of revolution and the planet of evolution being lined up in the same place. When two planets are lined up, like the moon and the sun are at every new moon, and we'll get to the new moon here in this month in just a moment, but when two planets are lined up in the same place, like a new moon, this is a seed period. This is the beginning of the cycle. And then when the two planets reach the 90-degree point, it's the first major stress or tension that brings up the issues that were initiated at the beginning of the cycle, at the new moon or at the conjunction, in this case, at the Uranus-Pluto conjunction in the mid-60s. And now, at the 90-degree angle at the square, and the square really is 2012 through 2015, and just like the 1965-1966 conjunction really lasted from the early 60s all the way through to the early 70s, the impacts of this Uranus-Pluto square also began back in around 2008, probably around the time of the financial meltdown and the election of Obama, and are coming into high degree of focus now, 2012 through 2015, and then we'll still have a few years of after effects as we catch up, so to speak, to the actual impacts of what happened. So the reason why we're focusing on this Uranus-Pluto square is that it is exact for the second of 7 exact squares on September 18th. That's like 2.5 weeks away. And these planets move so slowly that they're already within a degree of being exactly lined up. So this is the background note of this month. In fact, it is the background note of these times. Now, having said that, I just want to take one moment and just give this a little bit of historical perspective by looking just for a moment at another time in history when Uranus and Pluto lined up exactly as they did in the 60s, followed by a square as they are now. In 1455, Uranus and Pluto lined up exactly. This was the year that Gutenberg invented the printing press. This was the technological breakthrough that set the tone, that created a lot of what became the fallout from the Florentine or the Italian or the Renaissance, what we call the Renaissance. In 1455, Uranus and Pluto lined up. In the early 1490s, they reached their square, like they are again now. And during the square, this is often referred to, the 1490s, as the age of exploration. Remember, it was in 1492 that Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Well, it wasn't just Columbus. It was a whole bevy of explorers that opened up human awareness to what was going on the globe, all around the globe. And by the same token, those things which came into fruition that happened during the mid-60s. Oh, and I might also just note that like Gutenberg invented the printing press at the Uranus-Pluto conjunction in the mid-1400s, in the 60s, IBM came out with its first business computer. Matter of fact, it was the same year. It was the System 36. And this was and just like the printing press, Gutenberg thought there was only one book that would ever really need to be printed, and that was the Bible. By the same token, the IBM kind of assumed that there would only be a handful of customers for the business computer because it was looked at as almost like a digital printing press for control, for government, for business. No one foresaw what would happen with the internet. Just like back in Gutenberg's day, no one foresaw what would happen when all of the Platonic material and the Hermetic material, all this mysterious stuff from way before Christianity started being published, which actually helped to create what we call the Protestant Reformation. So what I'm suggesting is that, like the 1490s, where we were at the edge of a whole new awareness, we are now, in 2012, standing at the edge of a whole new awareness. And this awareness had its seed period in the 1960s, when issues of gender equality, it was the rise of the modern feminist movement, when issues of gender equality, when issues when the world peace movement, it was the anti-Vietnam war movement in this country, but the peace movement, social revolution, students in the streets, issues of ecology, and just so many of the issues that are back in our faces now, but they're in our faces with a high degree of immediacy. And at the opening square, which is what this is, what happens is that the issues that came into being at the conjunction in the mid-60s get a go or no-go. And so it's really incumbent that, like the 60s, we understand that this is a period of huge social revolution, that we're at the tip of the iceberg with the Arab Spring and the Fukushima tidal wave and nuclear disaster, with the Occupy Wall Street. Actually, it started with Occupy Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, and then Occupy Wall Street, and now it's Occupy everything. These are really the opening volleys of a larger social movement that we are still at the front edge of the wave. So now, having understood that, and I wanted to take the time to set that kind of down when we now look at, okay, so what's happening this month? Are you with me here? Astrologers all around the world have been talking about this period of time. I mean, I know we have Mayan prophecies and we have, Terence McKenna's Time Wave Zero and other things that are, all leading up to that these are tremendously changeful times. But astrologically, the Uranus-Pluto square, it really corroborates that, that what our senses are telling us, what our intuition is telling us, that these times are incredibly changeful times, is really the case. So let's now shift our focus to what's going on this month. We looked at the kind of macrocosmic view, the big picture, the big picture that's really the entire, 2012 through 2015 phase. We'll be back here again and again and again as we talk about what unfolds or what will unfold before us. But now let's shift gears and come back to what's happening this month, what's happening in our personal lives right ahead of us, right, on our plates today.